Yeah, it's time to rise. Put your hands up, let's reach for the skies. Grady Tax Plus, we're here to say we're keeping the IRS out of your way. I'm a licensed social worker, you know my name. Turn IRS and road agent, now I play the game. Helping you save, it's more than a dream. It's about living life, letting your spirit beam. You deserve the best, let's take that flight. Leaving worries behind, stepping into the light. You work hard for your dollars, I'm here to guide so you can manage your wealth. Take the power and free, that's how we roll, how we roll. Taking back control, don't you know, don't you know? Let's change your life, let's change your life. Every step we take, cut through the strife. Okay, I just had to start with my theme song because I do have a song for my business name. So if you're new here, welcome. Welcome to my channel. Welcome to Grady Tax Plus. I am Chastity Grady. At Grady Tax Plus, it is our number one goal to make sure that we are keeping the IRS out of your pockets so that you can live a better life. Why? Because you deserve it, right? And so on today, I am going to share with you all how I went from $5.75 an hour to owning a six-figure business. And so the reason why I want to talk about this is because I wrote a post in a couple Facebook communities on today, and that question I asked people was, why did you choose social work or the counseling degree that you have? Or did it choose you, right? Why did you choose it? Or did it choose you? And the reason why I asked that question was because oftentimes when you are a social worker, when you are a behavioral health professional, working in that field can be it can be emotionally taxing. It can be mentally, spiritually, physically, even financially. And so with all the weight that you carry or that we carry as behavioral health professionals, then why did you choose to go into that field? Or as the other question said, or did it choose you? And most people who responded to the question said it chose them for various reasons. And I'm here to tell you today that social work definitely chose me, right? So if it chose me, then how am I advertising being in a tax business, right? Where's the connection? So that's what I want to tell you, right? I want to tell you my story of how social work chose me, right? So let's go back. Let's go back. And this is a live video on YouTube, by the way. This is my first live video on YouTube under my Grady Tax Plus channel. So make sure you share this video. Make sure you give me some comments, some likes, some hearts, some whatever you want to do in the comment section of the chat. Go ahead and do that for me because, just give me a little, fluff me up just a little bit, okay? And so on today, okay, I want to talk to you about my why. And I feel like I don't talk about it enough and I don't talk about it often. A couple reasons why I don't talk about my why is because the my why is oftentimes connected to other people's painful parts of their story that they have not shared yet or they have not had resolution for on their own. And it's like, it's kind of hard. Sometimes I feel guilty. Sometimes I feel guilty in telling my story or wanting to tell my story because it is connected to other people, right? And I have to understand that my story at the end of the day is my story. My facts at the end of the day is my facts. So, with that said, I have to be honest with myself. I have to tell the story of who I am, because who better than tell my story than me? Who's better to know my story than me? And if my story is attached to someone else's pain, then that's why you behavioral health professionals are out there. Okay. That's why y'all are out there to help the people who still need help. And when it comes to their mind, right? All right. So, with that being said, let me tell you. So, I'm going to take you back to when I was 16 years old. That was about 20 years ago. When I was 16 years old, every girl, they wait for their 16th birthday, right? Every girl waits. They can't wait for their 16th birthday. And as I'm going doing this live, I'm trying to figure out how can I share it on Facebook. But every girl, they await their 16th birthday, right? They await their 16th birthday, and that is like one of the most pivotal times in the young girl's life, right? Their sweet 16. And for me, as someone who was turning 16, I'm thinking that I'm gonna, like, my life is just gonna change forever, right? I'm going to be able to start doing the things that I want to do. I was already working a job. I already had my job that I loved, being a cashier, right? Working as a cashier. I was always someone who loved numbers, right? I wanted to, sidebar, every year for Christmas, I would ask my mom for one particular thing. When people give their checklist of what they want for Christmas, the one thing that I kept telling my mom every single Christmas was that I wanted a cash register. That's all I want. It got to a point to where all the other stuff that I would put on my list, she would get, like, other things, but I would never get that cash register. And so it got to a point to where I was like, I'm only asking for the cash register because that's what I want. So you can just allocate all my funds for my gifts to the cash register. Just give me the register, right? Just give me the money. That's what I wanted, right? That's what I desired, was to, work with money. And so when I got my first job at the age of 15, working at a grocery store, I was ecstatic. And I had to earn my stripes. Let me say that, because when I first started, I wasn't old enough to work at the cash register. You had to be 16. And the guy, he did my mama solid, because she used to work for the company back in her day. And, when you know people who know people, you get in the door. So I was able to get in the door, but I was working as the buggy pusher. Or what do we call ourselves back then? I don't know, but I used to be the person who go get the shopping carts out of the. I was a bagger. I bagged up the groceries, and I was someone who would go get the carts out of the parking lot. And I was so a pro. Anything that I do work wise, I made sure I did it with perfection. So when people saw me pushing 20 carts at a time, they're like, "Are you supposed to be doing that? You're a young girl. Why are you were like 12 years old? Why are you doing?" I'm like, first of all, I'm not. I'm 15, and yes, I am able to do this. Okay, and then I worked my way up to being at the cash register, and then to eventually working behind the counter, and I'll get to that. So anyway, so I always wanted to work with money. So when I got my job and I started out making $5.75 an hour, you could not tell me anything. So when I turned 16, I can remember it like yesterday. When I turned 16, we had just moved into a new house. We were a blended family, so we moved into a two-story home. It had multiple bedrooms. I had my own room. Didn't have to share anymore when it was a house full of people. And so I was ecstatic. I had my own phone line. I was like, yeah, I felt like I was doing something, right? I felt like I was doing something. And then, like, maybe a couple weeks after my 16th birthday, just to I'm trying to decide I don't want this live to be super long, but it's a story, right? And I'll shorten it along the way. However, I did not have a great relationship with the man that my mom was dating at the time. And he had one of those complex to where he felt like he was the ruler of all things. And when you're a teenager, you don't deal with authority, or at least for me, you don't deal with authority that well, especially when it comes from people who you don't like. And so when you have someone who you don't like and they're trying to tell you what to do, you can see how there could be conflict. And so the fact that my stepsister or his daughter and we had our own phone line, I thought that, I can just live my life. I have my own room. I got my own phone line. I have a job. I'm stay out of your way. You stay out of mine. Right. And then I had heard that this man was listening to phone conversations, right? People's personal phone conversations with people. And I had it in my mind. I was like, you know what? He's not gonna listen to my phone conversation. I pay for this phone bill. There's no way he's gonna be listening to my phone conversation, especially because the only person I really was talking to was the man who I was dating at the time. Yes, I said man. And so as I was on the phone back in the day when you had the phone lines, right? We didn't have cell phones. So back in the day when you had your phone line, if you try to click over and you couldn't click over, that's how you know that somebody was on your phone or somebody, was on the line listening, right? If I could click over and I heard the buzz and I click back over, okay, I'm good. But if I click back over, if I try to click and it's not clicking anywhere, then somebody is on that phone. And so I heard one day I was on the phone with my boyfriend at the time, and I heard like some heavy breathing that wasn't mine or it wasn't his. And I was like, what is this breathing I'm hearing? And so I tried to click over and I couldn't click over. And I said, I know you're not listening to my phone conversation. That's what I was saying to myself. I was like, I know you're not listening to my phone conversation, a phone that I'm paying for, right? With the job that I'm working, right? I know you're not listening to my phone call. So the little 16-year-old me was bold enough to go downstairs and ask him, hey, are you listening to my phone conversation? I don't know how I said it or whatever, but being a 16-year-old, I probably had some sass to it. And then he opened the door all big chest, like basically who you talking to. And ain't nobody else around, so I'm talking to you. Like I'm making comedy out of this, but this was very serious. And so I was like, I'm talking to you, right? And then he decided that, at that time it was best that I can just pack up my stuff and leave. And I said, well, I bye, essentially. And when my mom had came, she decided to take me to my dad's house because it was my plan to go to my great grandmother home because I know that if my great grandmother's house was the house where if someone needed somewhere to stay, if you didn't have anywhere to go, you can go to my great grandmother's house. And so my mom ended up taking me to my dad's house, a man who I had never lived with a day in my life. He was in prison for 10 years of my life. Um, and so at the time when I'm 16, he was in prison for 10 years of my life. So he had only been out for about 5 or so years at that time. And you want me to go live with this man who I don't even really know, never spent the night with. You want me to go live with this man. So I went and I lived with him, and it was not great. It was not great. I found out he was a CH, okay? CRACKHEAD, okay? I found out that he was that, and that kind of did it for me. But what happened was, just to kind of speed up the story, because there's so many things that was going on along the way. As I mentioned before, I was in a relationship with a man, and at the time, I thought I had like a medical emergency that I needed to deal with. A medical emergency, as far as like believing, I was under the impression that, when your time of the month don't come and you're like, oh my gosh, what's going on? You got these issues. And I wasn't feeling well. So I wanted to go to the doctor, the hospital, to see what was up. And then my dad acted like he wanted to be my dad that day and try to fill out paperwork. And I was like, hey, let me just fill out my paperwork. I know my socials, so I don't have to tell you out loud. You're legally blind, so why are you trying to fill out paperwork? And he got into this big macho man complex, and we had an argument. And when we went back to the home, he literally beat me with a belt buckle. And just to put this in perspective, my dad, he used to be a professional boxer, and he was although he was a CH, he was a very fit person, very lean, but muscular. So you can just imagine someone who used to wrestle, who used to be a boxer beating a 16-year-old girl with a belt buckle, how that would feel, right? And I can remember me yelling for my grandmother, his mother, you saying, Medea, Medea, help me, Medea, help me. And she said out of her own mouth, I told you that girl was no good. And I was like, wow. So she's hearing me screaming for my life. And then she doesn't help me. She says, hey, I told you that girl was no good. I think it was his brother who ended up ultimately ending him abusing me. And so I had my aunt, my great aunt, she came and she picked me up. And from there, I went to my great grandmother's house. And then from there, I ended up staying with the guy who I was with. And so, mind you, this is going into my senior year of high school. So, the senior year of your high school year is the most important time of your life, right? It's the most important time, especially if you're someone who's going to go to college, which I didn't know nothing about. But your junior year is very important when it comes to your grades. And so I found myself going into the junior year being at a disadvantage because I was living in the ghetto. I was living right behind projects in South Dallas, at a home, a multi-family home with multiple people. It's like a three bedroom home with basically one bathroom with over 10 people in that house, and then people coming in and out. And so I was in a situation to where me having my job, that was literally all that I had because I didn't have meals to eat. I had to basically fend for myself. So when I went there, I literally had like a couple pairs of clothes, a couple pairs of underwear, like one or two pairs of shoes, and that's it. And so you can imagine my junior year, going into my junior year with basically having to rewear the same pairs of pants, the same pairs of shirts, underwear over and over again, not being able to wash them. And when I could, it was basically in the sink. Just imagine how does that feel as a junior going into one of the most important uh, grades of your life, and you have to basically wear the same pair of pants every day, right? Just I'm being very vulnerable with you. There, I had a math teacher, and I remember vividly. I walked into the room, and she literally had to spray down my area with Febreze, Lysol, all kinds of sprays because it smelled so bad. That's the kind of life that I was living when I was with him. And he wasn't working. He was 20 years old. He wasn't working, just waiting for me to come home from school, come home from work, right? Off my $5.75 an hour and having to give him money. Literally, we was eating off like Domino's pizza or whatever I could buy with my paychecks for us to eat. So I couldn't buy any clothes. And then not only that, he was also physically abusing me. So there was times where I didn't even go to school because I had black eyes and I didn't want to go to school. You see how cute this face is? Just imagine my eye being covered black. How I looked, right? I couldn't go to school looking like that. So I would miss like 3 weeks worth of school at a time because it took that long for my eyes to heal, to get back to its normal color or as close to normal as possible. So you can imagine in 3 weeks, if I wasn't there, the amount of zeros I was getting for all the grades, for any tests that I missed, any homework, any projects, getting zeros my junior year. And it came to a point to where I was in a situation where my like one of the bigger paychecks that I was looking forward to, I was super excited. I had worked a number of hours, and I was like, I was super ecstatic that I was gonna get a certain paycheck. And when I got paid that paycheck, I had went to Taco Bell to celebrate with one of my coworkers, right? On our way home or on our when we got off from work, we rode the bus to go to Taco Bell so that we could celebrate, and then go back home. So what ended up happening was I accidentally left my purse in the restroom at Taco Bell. And that could have been the worst thing and also the best thing that could happen. So I lost my purse. I left it there. I came back the next day to go get it, and obviously my money was gone. I want to say this was probably about, again, this was like 20 years ago. So this was probably about like $200 to $300. To me, that was like 2 or 3 thousand. Right. To me, that felt like I had $2 or 3 thousand that I lost. And that $200 to $300 that I had lost, that actually made him upset, right? Made him upset. I was called all kinds of names. I was even halfway basically kicked out because I lost my money, on top of being abused. And so I had contacted a friend to go live with briefly, and she was also in a situation where she was on her own. Her sister and her cousin were on their own, and they were trying to figure out life together. And we were all trying to figure out things to do. What can we do to make money? Like, we need money right now. What can we do? And we were trying to come up with so many different creative ways. Um, and at the end of the day, we ended up having scooping up enough money to get us a motel room to where we had, you know, a few days where we could stay at a motel room. But then it was getting to a point where the money was running out. We had no money for food, and we were the cousin, she went back to her family. Her sister, who was pregnant, went with her boyfriend. It was just us two. And she was like, you know what, I'm calling a school counselor. Like, she would be able to help us. She's cool. Like, I'm calling the school counselor. I'm like, no, you're not calling the school counselor. No. We were in a motel room. We are like in not in a nice area either. We were in the motel rooms where, people had those 2 for $20 deals and stuff like that, if you know what I'm talking about. And I was like, no way, like, nah, we're gonna get in trouble. Like, no, I am. But she called the school counselor anyway. And you know what? And I had never even thought about that, but I'm so thankful that she did. Because when she called the school counselor, that put a target on my back. Initially, there was, at least I didn't know, but initially there was no target on my back. I was just another student who wasn't going to school that they knew nothing about. And so whenever my school counselor stepped in, she started trying to connect me back to my family. I ended up going briefly with my great grandmother for the time being, and she put a curfew. She was like, I needed to be back at my great grandmother's house by 8 p.m. I need to have called her on the phone by 8 p.m. If I didn't call her, then I was gonna get in trouble. So yeah, she was like, yeah. That lasted for a little bit, and just out of full transparency, I ended up back with the guy. And so when I ultimately ended the relationship with him after multiple other black eyes and other situations that happened, and moved on from him to somebody, just different things, you know. Um, my school counselor, even though, I was kind of back and forth, but I was trying to get on the right path, she had revealed to me something that I had never been privy to before, and that was going to school. So towards the end of my junior year, she revealed to me that I was actually top 10% of my class. And let me tell you this, just because I was in a dumb situation, a bad situation, that does not mean I was not intelligent. Oftentimes we think that people who are in dumb situations or bad situations, we think they are, mentally they're not all the way there. Something's off with them. Maybe they're dumb, like from an intellectual standpoint. Your girl was very smart. Let me just say that. Your girl was very smart, and she made comments about how the teacher was just like, I don't understand. Like, she can be gone for weeks and weeks at a time and then come back and she can just pick it up and get A's and high B's, and like, what is going on with her? Like, she can be excelling in this class, but she's not here. What is up with this girl? And so my school counselor revealed to me that I was actually top 10%. That has sparked something in me. And she was like, with you being top 10%, this was, again, over almost 20 years ago, she told me I could go to any school that I wanted to, that they have to let me in just because I'm top 10%. And she introduced me to the University of Texas at Austin. That was the first school she introduced me to. She was like, "Hey, I want you to go to this. I want you to check out the school. They have this program where you can go visit the school. You can spend a night and see if you like it." And so I did that in that summertime. So it was the summer of 2007. At that point, I was 17, and I can't remember what we were doing, but I was taking some kind of class at first, and then like it's like they had us take a class to learn some stuff, and then we took the trip to Austin. So when I tell you that that was the moment, that was like the missing piece that I felt I needed my whole life. Going to Austin, visiting that campus, walking on that campus, sleeping in the dorm room, I felt like I was at home. I felt like I was at home. And I was like, I don't care what I do next. I am going to this school. This school right here. I don't know what it is, but I feel like God wants me here on this particular campus. And so when senior year started, I was on it. I had a mission. Senior year, I was joining every organization that I could. I was participating in all the activities. I was getting on all the committees because I missed my whole junior year. Remember, I told you your junior year, that's like your best year. That you're really supposed to have when it comes to your grades and all the other things, because when you apply to college, they're looking at your first 3 years. They don't look at your senior year because you're in that year, right? And so I was trying to make up. I was doing makeup. I was on prom committee, homecoming committee. I ran for student council. I ran for most beautiful. Okay. I was doing everything. I was on African dance team, choir, like all the things. Okay. If it was a committee, I made sure that I tried to be on it. And I was living my best life. And it was around like October of my senior year, and I was still going from place to place. I went from that man to my great grandmother to this couch to my that friend house to that friend house to my friend grandma house to my back to my great grandma house. I was place to place. I have no stability. And I was like, you know what, this senior year, in order for me to have the ultimate success that I feel like I need to have this year to pivot me to my next level, I have to have stability. And at that same time, my mom and I, we had reconciled. She had disclosed that she actually had left the guy who she was with previously. She was moving to a new place. And I asked her if I can come live with her. And she said yes. And me going from all those different places and being able to live with her, that did it. That did it for me. Sidebar, I left a part of the story out in regards to the job. Right before that, also before my senior year, I actually got fired from my job. I was getting a promotion, and the promotion was you're working behind the counter. So, cashing the checks, the counter that you go to cash your checks and all that was like the ideal place. Like you work your way up to working behind the counter. And I ended up getting fired from that, from the, like, I literally had just got the promotion. I went through the training, and I really haven't disclosed this part of the story before, but I actually failed a drug test. And I don't even do drugs. They did a hair sample, and the test came back positive. And I was like, are you kidding me? And my mom and I, we actually went and did a separate drug test like right after that, and it came back negative. And so I don't know if it was a glitch or whatever it was, but I will tell you that firing was the best thing that also happened to me, because had I not quit that job, or had I not been fired, right before my senior year, I would have went in to my senior year having a different mindset, thinking that I needed to stay. Something could have happened along the way, which would have made me stay in that position, stay in that job, and not allow me to leave. And me not having that job that allowed me, that opened the door for me to be able to be a part of other communities, to be a part of other organizations and activities, and doing all of the things that I was able to do my senior year. So I'm actually thankful for that. So, so I went to different colleges. I went on other tours to different universities, and every university that I went to, none of them felt like I felt had the feelings that I felt when I went to the University of Texas at Austin. So again, when I say, I was like, I have to do everything in my power to make sure that I go to this school. So when I applied to the school, I knew I was going to get in, right? Because I'm top 10%. But the rule that the University of Texas at Austin has is that they will accept you to the university, but that doesn't mean they will accept you to the major, right? And so the major I put down was business, right? I wanted to go to school to study accounting because remember, I love the numbers. I always wanted to work as a cash register. I always wanted, or a cashier. I always wanted a cash register for Christmas every year, asking my mama for the cash register. Never getting it. I think the one time I did get one wasn't the one that I wanted. Like I wanted the one with the bells and whistles and stuff. And I just got the one where, the money is just there. Like, no, I didn't want that kind. But anyways, and so I did not get accepted into the school of business, but they accepted me into the school of social work. First of all, I didn't even know what social work was. Okay. I thought I put my second major to be sociology because I think what happened was I just saw SOC and I thought that the drop down meant sociology, but it actually was social work. I guess I didn't read the whole thing, or I probably didn't care to read it because I was like, I'm going to school for accounting. So I don't necessarily care about the second major because I'm like, oh, I can just get into any school, right? And they accepted me into social work. So I was faced with a dilemma. I was faced with the dilemma of, do I go to my dream school in a different major? And when I have all of these other schools that are some of, not, I ain't gonna say some just as good because the University of Texas is the best. Uh, but there were other schools that I was accepted to in the business school that I could have went to, that I had scholarships to go to. I had a full scholarship to go to University of Texas at Austin as well. And it's like, do I go to school at this university in a major that I don't even know what it is? And so, like I said, it was embedded in me that I had to go to the University of Texas at Austin. That was where God wanted me to be. And so I accepted it. I accepted going to the University of Texas at Austin. And from then on, you might be thinking, well, yeah, go to UT and just try to transfer. Listen, they do not make it easy to try to transfer into the business school. I tried that and I was like, just find somebody else to do it. And I started liking the things that I was learning in social work. I always had the helping spirit within me, anyways. And so I just went ahead and went through with social work. And I had a career in social work. Got my master's in social work, became licensed, it's all the things. And as working as a social worker, as being in the social work field, back in the back of my mind, I always thought about the what if I did that? What if, right? And around the time when I was thinking about starting a business, there was two businesses I was looking into starting. One business was the fact that COVID was around and it had kind of shut down that whole travel market. The other one was the tax. And one of the reasons why I went ahead and started my tax business, for one, was because I was in Facebook communities with other social workers, other therapists who were in business or in their practices, and they knew nothing about the business side of things. They knew nothing about the tax side of things or the money side of things. And I would find myself answering questions in the groups, and, answering the questions. And so when God reminded me that I could become a tax professional, right? I can become a tax professional, but not just become a tax professional. I could be the tax professional for social workers and therapists. And so that birth Grady Tax Plus, where I primarily work with social workers and therapists, not just because I myself come from that field, but also because this is where God had led me. And the reason why I love that God was so strategic in how he brought me to this field in this way was because had I gone through the accounting side the first time around, I would have just been behind somebody's cubicle being bored, crunching numbers, not knowing my true calling, not knowing that there's a group of people, there's a group of behavioral health professionals who are suffering when it comes to their business, who wish they understood that missing link. I would have not been exposed to a community of behavioral health professionals who need someone to understand them. Because let me be honest, as a behavioral health, as a licensed clinician, we follow what I'm saying. We kind of have a God complex. And when I say we kind of have a God complex, kind of like with the doctors, like we think we can really save everybody, even though it's from a mental standpoint. We think that we can truly save everybody. We can do anything. Working in social work, let me tell you, especially when you work in the medical field, the doctors, the nurses, everybody, they come into the social worker to fix all the things. Like I'm just being honest. Like, can you do it? Like you a nurse, you can do the same thing. You can call the same people I can call. But anywho, they come to us to literally save everybody. Like they literally leave it to us. Like whatever the social worker say. If the social worker say you can be discharged, and you can be discharged. Like they literally will put it on our backs. And because I feel like that weight is on us, that people are coming to us to literally get out of poverty, to get out of mental struggles, to get out of domestic disputes, to when you're at the end of life, people come to us for so many different things, and we feel like we should be able to help in all areas. But then when it comes to ourselves, when it comes to money, that is like the one area some social workers and therapists feel like they cannot help themselves in. And so sometimes that leaves them feeling hopeless and helpless when it comes to their business, that nobody understands them or they're the only ones, when it's like other social workers and therapists who too feel like that they can't help themselves when it comes to the financial side of being in business. And the fact that I sat in those same classrooms where they told you, oh, you can make $120 an hour, you can make six figures if you own your own practice, but they didn't tell you about how to manage that, or the taxes, or the business side of things, which is why there's so many therapists. There are so many therapists and social workers in business right now who are legally unprotected because they have not been taught. And social workers and therapists, we need behavioral health professionals in this world. This is what keeps the world with the equilibrium that it needs. Imagine a world where there were no social workers, there were no therapists, there were no behavioral health type professionals, even if it's case management that stems from behavioral health. What if that was not in the atmosphere? What if that was not a part of our life cycle, our life? There will be people who are homeless without hope. There will be people with mental turmoil, with no sign of having any light. There will be so many people who do not know how to recover from substance use. There will be so many people. Just think of it. There's already enough people who struggle with addiction, who struggle with homelessness, who struggle in the child welfare system, who struggle from different areas of life. And just imagine if 100% of the people were struggling without any type of behavioral health support. So we need social workers, we need therapists in this world to keep the world going around. And just imagine the people who you need to keep the world going, they're feeling helpless themselves. They feel like they're the only ones who have the money issue. They're the only ones who don't understand the importance of budgeting and taxes and business things. Imagine having them not be delivered from that part of their lives so that they can better serve the community, so they can better serve the world. Right? Imagine what would this world look like? And so I'm thankful and grateful that God not only allowed me to work in such a space for over 10 years and to be in those same shoes where I have helped people in acute mental health crisis come out of that, making sure people are physically safe from a mental standpoint. I'm so glad I was able to experience that because now I know the weight that you carry as a social worker and a therapist. I know the weight that you carry. And I'm here to tell you that God has put me in position. And He not only has put me in position, but He has put other people as well in position. No, I'm just talking about me at the moment to make your burden light. To make your burden light, right? Someone who has sat in the same classroom, someone who has stepped in those same roles that you've been in, helping people. And also having the expertise from a business, a tax, and financial standpoint, right? So with Grady Tax Plus, yes, it's my goal to make sure that we are keeping the IRS out of your pockets, right? So that you can live a better life. However, it's also my goal to make sure that as a social worker and as a therapist, that you are financially successful. Why? Because you deserve it. You deserve it. You deserve to be financially successful, right? And I know oftentimes, many of us feel like, well, how can I be financially successful in business? When I was stepping away from social work, my social work career, making literally almost six figures, and I had all the feelings like, what if this, what if that, right? But although God had prepared me over the years financially to be able to walk away free and clear, I still had my own mental struggles and wrapping my mind around it. But what God reminded me whenever I was getting ready to put in a resignation letter was that if He took care of me when I was only making $5.75 an hour, then how much more would He do with what I have now? He took care of a 16-year-old girl making $5.75 an hour trying to support myself and another person. He made sure that I was taken care of just off of that. So what more would he do now with with the resources that I have, with the level of intellect, with the level of knowledge, with the level of strategy, all the things that I have now? How much more would he do? Right? So I want to encourage you. I want to encourage you. If you are a social worker or a therapist in business and you feel like I feel like I deserve to be financially successful. I deserve, watch this word, to make money. You deserve to make money. And it's okay to say the word money. It's okay to say the word money. And my hope for you is that moving forward, you can live your life being comfortable with saying the word money, right? So that you can live a better life, so that you can live the life that you deserve and desire to live. Because there's absolutely no reason, no way as to why you are helping someone come out of mental struggles, but then you have to suffer financially. I believe, and I'm a firm believer that if you are someone who is making impacts in the world, that impact leads to income. If you are someone who's making impacts on the world, in the world, in people's lives, then income must follow. Now it's up to you to make the decision on how you get that. But I need you to know that because you're making impact, income must follow, which means I can't have pro bono sessions for everybody. Everybody can't be on the discounted rate, right? Everybody can't. Because you have to remember at the end of the day, you have to take care of you as well. And God gave you what you have so that you could be taken care of. And it would be a slap in his face for you to just to cheat your way out of the prosperity that God is trying to give you. One of my tax friends, she tells me this all the time because I still struggle sometimes with giving discounts and things like that. She's like, I want you to think about your daughter. She's going to need some diapers. She's going to need some food. Your son is going to need some clothes. And what if you couldn't get that for them because you decided to discount somebody something? That the extra money that you needed, that they were there, you had them there to pay and you decided to discount. Now you can't buy your daughter diapers. Now you can't buy your son new shoes. And when you start thinking about things that way, wow, if I discount this client, what is it taken from me? If I discount this client, then I'm not going to be able to eat out this week. I made plans to go eat out with my family, and I'm not going to be able to go because I discounted this client. I'm not going to be able to go and enjoy just pampering myself because I decided to do pro bono and not ask the client to pay me when I knew that they could probably pay me. You have to start thinking about, I know we're not supposed to think about ourselves, right? Put the client first, right? But if you're out on the street, is that your client's problem or is that your problem? If you can't pay your light bill, is it your client's problem or is it your problem? If you can't, if it's a struggle, if you're going from paycheck to paycheck and deposit to deposit, is it your problem or is it the client's problem? So if it's your problem, then what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? So I kept y'all long enough. And again, I did this live because I was like, I'm not about to edit a video. I'm just gonna go, I'm gonna flow with whatever comes to mind. And I'm gonna keep telling my story over and over again until it's perfected. I just kind of laid out a lot of the details for you all, but some details I often don't share with people. Okay. But I want you to know the real me. I want you to know where I've come from, why I am passionate about helping who I am called to help, right? And it's also to help me be able to better serve you because oftentimes I find myself speaking to the noise, right? Speaking to the outsiders. And not that it's something wrong or anything wrong with that, but I need my people to hear my voice. And from a biblical standpoint, the word says, my sheep, they hear my voice, they know my voice. And the sheep that's specifically assigned to me, I need you to hear my voice. I need you to recognize my voice, right? And so if you are someone who you hear my voice and my voice resonates with you, I'm going to leave in the description my community for you to join. Currently, as of the live of this video, the name of the community is called Social Workers and Therapists with Tax Questions, but that name is going to change. But for now, use the link in the comments or in the description to join that community. Also, join my email list. If you are someone you need tax support, business support, finance support, join my community of email on my email list. Okay, I email about one to up to three times a week, giving you different things, okay? Tax, business, finance, all the things, right? And if you are someone who you're like, you know what, Chastity, I need to talk to you. I need to talk to you. I'm someone who I'm helping my clients, but financially, I'm like, this is a mess. And I don't think it's supposed to be a mess. Then schedule a consultation with me. So I'll be leaving in the description as well a link to my calendar. Okay, a link to my calendar. And let me just say, because I am recording this live, or this is a live video, it's actually late at night. It's about 10 p.m. Central Standard Time. And so I was kind of looking at myself. I'm like, I'm looking like I want to go lay down, and it's because it's the time. um, so I was just kind of looking at the different variations of my energy levels throughout the this live. But I'm super excited for what's about to come. I am on I'm on the assignment, right? I'm trying to be in alignment with my assignment. So I'm trying to focus on only doing the things that's in alignment with my assignments and letting the rest just fall by the wayside. Okay? So if you're a part of the alignments, if what I've said to you is an alignment with you, with your values, with what you want for yourself, then I invite you to connect with me. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, okay? Subscribe to my YouTube channel. I believe that with I believe that the platforms that I am being intentional with, that they will soon grow, that they will soon grow. And even if it don't, what I've learned is that as long as two or three are gathered, so at least if at least two or three people watch this video, then I know God was here, right? So if you're someone who, like I said, you need to get connected with me, I'm leaving the comment in the comments or the description, the video, I'm sorry, the link for my Facebook community, my email list, as well as scheduling an appointment with me. All right. So as I am getting ready to close this live, I'm going to just end the live with the rest of my AI generated song, okay, about Grady Tax Plus, about me, going from a social worker to a licensed enrolled agent. If you don't know what an enrolled agent is, it's basically the cream of the crop. It's like being the LCSW. It's like being the LPC, the psychologist. It's the highest license level that the IRS gives for tax professionals. Okay, and I can represent I can represent taxpayers, what the IRS calls it, but I can represent clients in all 50 states. My license is a federal license, so if you ever have any tax issues, I'm also specialize in managing your money, obviously, in regards to your bookkeeping. All right, so I've talked enough. I'm just gonna end the video with the rest of my song, and I will see y'all in the next one. Discussing strategies, turn your finances around with behavioral insight, your foot in the sound. I teach you to invest, saving pennies with pride. We'll build your empire, let the hustle be your guide. Motivate minds, rise up in the crowd, let your potential shine. Stand tall and loud, learn and keep what you earn. Feel that sweet ease, living your best life. It's you that we power to free. That's how we roll, how we roll. Taking back control. Don't you know, don't you know? Let's change your mind. Let's change your life. With every step we take, cut through the strife. Moving with passion, heart full of fire. Touched by grace, you'll reach even higher. Connect to your power, know it's your time. Flourish in business, let's make you shine. I'm here to inspire, correct and uplift. With Grady Tax Plus, I'm your powerful gift. Women in business, we're taking a stance. Dancing through life, come join in the dance. From tax strategies to managing flow, I've got the tools, just let them know. Your money's your energy, let's keep it tight. Transforming your mindset will soar to new heights. The IRS won't take what you want for the day. With my guidance and insight, you'll pave your own way. Motivation and strategy intertwined in gold. We'll create your legacy, watch your story unfold. So move to the beat, feel that spark ignite. With Grady Tax Plus, you're set to take flight. Living a better life, because you deserve it all. Empowered and free. Come join us. That's how we roll, how we roll. Taking back control. Don't you know, don't you know? Let's change your mind. Let's change your life. With every step we take, to the sky. So move to the beat. Feel that spark ignite. With Grady Tax Plus, you're set to take flight. Living a better life, because you deserve it all. Empowered and free, come join our call. Empowered and free, how we roll, taking back control. Don't you know, let's change your mind, let's change your life. Every step we take, cut through the strife. All right, y'all. I hope you were jamming out with me for the rest of this live video. We did it. We did our first live on YouTube. I'm looking forward to other lives. I do go live on my social media pages on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Fridays. On Mondays, I do Motivational Mondays. Tuesdays, Tax Talk Tuesdays. And Fridays, Fire Your Boss Friday. Now, that is a community where people who from all walks of life who are interested in firing their boss one day for good and needing the tools and resources in order to do so. So that's what I do in that community. Okay. So I hope you enjoyed this live. Again, like I told y'all, it's late. So I'm actually going to watch this myself. And guess what? If I like it, then you will be able to know that because the replay will be right here, right? But if I don't, then you just won't ever see this video. Okay. So, anyways, thank you for tuning in. I will catch you in the next one.